Now we've got another presentation that I'm really excited about. We have our very own Nicole Tettke, who's joining us. She's one of our CSMs on our team and brings a ton of passion. I love this topic where she's talking about top 10 tips to have increased productivity as a CSM. Nicole, are you there?
I am here.
How you
Hi,
doing?
everyone.
How you
Hi,
doing?
Nicole.
Doing well. It's a little bit like Inception, seeing myself on the screen on your end and then on the screen in Zoom.
That's a lot of fun. Well, we're excited to hear all of your great tips and tricks for your peers in the customer success space. We'll throw it over to you and let you take it away.
Perfect. Thank you, Dave. Perfect. Well, first and foremost, thank you everyone so much for joining today's session. My name is Nicole, as Dave just introduced me, and today I'm going to be showing you all 10 things that you can do to be more productive on a day-to-day basis. But to begin, I would be remiss in not explaining why I'm the person to talk to you all about how you can be more productive with your time. I think telling you a little bit about my background will help shine light on that. I started my customer success career in 2016. This is also when I had the pleasure of meeting Christy, and I was an SDR. I was very good at getting people to talk to me, not so good at asking them for money. So the turning point there was about 3 months into my tenure at Vesterly. I started being a customer success manager, which completely revamped what my life would be like over the next coming years. But in that journey, I inherited 300 accounts, and it was my very first time stepping into the customer success world. So I had to learn very, very quickly how to deliver the best service to our customers at an at-scale way, and also figure out what does it mean to be a customer success manager. Over the course of 2 years, started getting my grounding. Christy helped a lot. But in 2018, I joined a company called Front. Front is a company that is very much focused on bringing all your communication channels into one space and making your day-to-day life more efficient. My job was an onboarding manager there, and it was incredibly focused on making sure that me, as the onboarding manager, I was able to show other teams how to be productive and efficient with their time. Those things that I taught my clients trickled into my daily life, and I'll be showing some of them to you. But in 2021, so last November, I joined the team at Client Success. And in joining the team at Client Success as a customer success manager, I actually inherited the largest book of business at Client Success. So the tips and tricks that I have learned from Vesterly and at Front are now seeing their impact on my book of business. And all of those learnings are what I hope to show you all about today. So to begin, let's say you had 30 minutes a day, extra 30 minutes that you could allocate. What would you do with that extra time? It can be time that you spend going on a walk. It can be time that you spend focusing on things that you want to focus your energy on rather than the mundane tasks that take up your time. My goal is that by the end of this presentation, I'll help you guys gain back a few minutes in your day so that over time they continue to add up. So you have that time so that you can do the things that you actually want to be doing. So with that, I will start by saying it is very hard to be efficient with your time if you're not operating in a mindset that makes you happy and that makes you feel like what you're doing adds value to your day-to-day life. So I will start with the concept of operating in your zone of genius. The zone of genius is a concept that Laura Garnett writes about. I first heard about it at a lunch and learn where Front CEO Mathilde Collin and Justin Kahn were having a dialogue that we all were purview to. Mathilde writes a fantastic Medium article about it, but the main takeaway for me was if you are not spending your time in a way that is impactful to you and it is doing things that you love, the rest of the time that you're spending isn't well spent. So the very first tip that I will share with you all is take a moment to audit what does your day-to-day look like. And in that audit, figure out what are the things that really excite you and allow you to operate in your zone of genius, and what are the things that drain you. And for the things that drain you, I invite you all to think through how are ways that you can rejiggle them to make them more exciting to you. Or hopefully, as we go through today's presentation, What are some of the tips that you can incorporate into your day to make those things that drain your energy more digestible and easier to swallow? So to begin, start by an audit, go through your day, figure out what is exciting to you and also what drains you. And then once you have done that audit for those things that excite you and maybe even for those things that drain you, establish a hierarchy of your priorities for your book of business. We are all CSMs. We all have accounts that are doing really well. We have accounts that aren't doing so great. But at the end of the day, it's up to us all to determine how do we spend our time. And if we are being pulled in a million different directions and we don't have a good way to establish where we spend our time, it's time that's not well spent. So as you're going through your audit and as you're thinking about your day-to-day, determine if I had unlimited resources, how would I spend my time? For me, I focus on my renewals. I spend a lot of time on my accounts and onboarding. I focus on my higher value, not so healthy accounts to begin with. And then I have levels of priority that I focus on once my main top priorities are taken care of. And as I'm going through my day, I stick to that prioritization. So while we can have a list of priority or a hierarchy of priorities, if we're not acknowledging it and sticking to it, it makes it hard to be efficient with our time. Hopefully these two tips help you operate in your zone of genius, but what I find is also very draining for me, or was draining for me, was I spent so much time trying to find everything that I was looking for. So I would spend probably at least 10 to 15 minutes every day trying to find that PowerPoint, trying to locate that resource. So if you had that time back, how much time, and even if we had to quantify it, how much time do you spend looking for the things that you need? And with that in mind, I encourage everyone to organize your resources into a system of records that makes sense for you. I joined Client Success in November, and the very first thing that I did was I spent time shadowing and understanding how things work at the company. Once I had, as I will say, I'm still figuring things out, but once I had that foothold where I felt comfortable in knowing, okay, this is what my job entails, I also took stock of where does everything live and how can I easily locate it? What I did was I organized it into different folders that made sense to me. And I will say that organization and figuring out how you're going to organize your system of records does take time. And as the saying goes, you spend money to make money. I encourage you all to spend some time on this so that you gain some time back because you're organized in a way that makes it easy for you to locate what you need. When you are organizing yourself, you're going to also uncover that you might need things that you think don't exist. Chances are your teammates have something that they've worked on along the way. It might not be exactly what you're looking for, but your teammates are also your greatest resource. I would say it is advisable to not recreate the wheel. Take what exists and make it your own, and use the tools that you're creating and organizing and share them with your team. At the end of the day, we are as strong as our team is, and if you have the opportunity to help your team and share from your learnings, it's a great way to, one, save time in the sense that you're not recreating the wheel, but also share that wealth with your team members, much like Christy shares her decks on LinkedIn. We've talked about operating in zone of genius, talked about getting organized. Let's end the next one that I'll share with you all is calendar block with purpose. I've seen, and I've been guilty to this, that it is very easy to put a block on your calendar that says, do not schedule, or do not block. It's very easy when you don't have a block on your calendar that serves a purpose to start doing something that is not positively contributing to your day. You can start fiddling on LinkedIn. You can step away in a way that's not productive to your day-to-day. So as you consider blocking your calendar off for things that you need to get done, calendar blocking with purpose is a way to ensure that you are setting an intention for how you spend your time. So in my case, for example, I have a block on Mondays and Fridays in the morning. They're called my catch-up blocks to handle everything that came in on the weekend and then everything that I need to take care of going into the weekend. On Wednesdays, I have my proactive outreach block that is based on my hierarchy of priorities. And every Friday afternoon, I focus on renewals and retention or renewal opportunities. And I am very purposeful about sticking to my calendar blocks because I know that if I focus on those projects and focus on those intentions, I am able to get them done and move the needle on them rather than saying, okay, now I'm going to go do this and come back to it without a purpose and an intention. So these are all tips for organization. What I'm going to share with you all next is items focused on repetition. So if you think about your day-to-day, and as a CSM, we have many different ways that we focus our attention, but how many of the tasks that you are doing are repetitive? So how many of those emails that you're sending out are fairly similar? How often do you do the same training? How often do you spend time forwarding things to other teams? All of these things are repetitive tasks. So what I invite you all to do is identify what are these repetitive tasks and optimize for them. The next tips that I'll share will help you optimize for the repetition that you might have on a day-to-day basis. So for those emails that you are sending time and time again, templatize them. Don't spend time writing the same email. Don't spend time writing the same type of draft. In Outlook, you can save these as email signatures. In Gmail, you can actually create email templates. But every email that you are templatizing is a few minutes saved in your day. And all of those minutes add up. And as you're thinking through how you templatize, it doesn't have to be verbatim exactly what's going to go out in the email, but at least having a framework or an outline for how you would like to structure those messages and the consistency that you've established will help you save minutes and minutes over time. This is one that I was actually talking about yesterday with a client. And I started my career by not being the most efficient with. I find that it is very easy to take notes on paper. And it's a habit that took a little bit of time to break, but now all of my notes are digitalized, so they're on the computer. And while my notes are digitalized and I'm taking stock of what are my action items that I need to complete, going back to them was another thing that I had to do. And remembering that I had these tasks was a separate thing. What I have started to do and what I have started to implement on my day-to-day is taking all of my to-dos from my engagements, so from my calls, and adding them as an email draft. So I treat my email drafts as my ongoing to-do list, and I have the action items that I need to do. I have the actions that the customer needs to do. And then taking it all and coming full circle, I have an email template tied to it where I add in the to-dos in the client section and in my action item section. So it's very clear what the division of responsibilities is. But I do this as a way to, one, optimize my day and also ensure that I'm not letting things slip through the cracks. When you have a big book of business or when you have a complex book of business, it is very easy for things to go by the wayside. We are human, things slip through our mind, but this is one way that you can ensure that you are delivering on your promises and you're also not having to take manual notes, add them to your computer, and then from those notes, create an email. So the intention here is save some time, but also don't let things fall through the cracks. And for this tip, I would say, use a to-do list that makes sense to you, but try to incorporate it into a software or a tool that you are leveraging on a day-to-day basis. So it might be tasks in Gmail or in Outlook that you're using. It might be comments in front, going back to my past. In client success, it might be, well, I like to use this structure, but it might be a to-do list that you create. But identify what works for you and find a way to avoid doing duplicative work. Snoozing. Snoozing is my personal best friend, and I want to introduce you all to my best friend. Snoozing is a way to ensure that you have proactive outreach. So how many of you have Post-it notes sitting on your desk right now, or many, many calendar events on a day-to-day basis that are follow-up tasks based on what you've completed? Imagine a world where there was a button in Gmail or a folder in Outlook that you can move things to that act as a reminder for what you need to follow up on. The way that I use Snooze is if I am scheduling something, if I am waiting on a client reply, or if there is an action item that is urgent, I will snooze the message in Gmail. After the snooze timing has elapsed, it pops back to the top of my inbox and I am proactive about my outreach. And the goal and the outcome here is I'm, one, not letting things slip through the cracks, but I also am conveying this sense of proactivity rather than reactiveness with my clients. So I'm establishing trust in the relationship, and there's this sense that I will follow up on the things that I say that I will do, and I will ensure that things get done that are important to both myself and the client. The last thing on my identify, repetition, and optimize is the concept of inbox zero. So if we're thinking about our inboxes and the way that we operate on a day-to-day basis, I'm sure that we all get a lot of emails. We're also sending a lot of emails. And it is very easy to go through all of those messages and read them. But what is not so easy is making sure that we actually get things done and we wrap up all of our tasks. The concept of inbox zero is less focused on what is read and unread in your inbox, and more so what is still open. What do you still need to action on? So when I look at my inbox, I look at all of the messages that I still have to do. We use Gmail, and it's a number on the upper right-hand side of the screen. And I use that number as the action items that I have that are external from my clients to me. So they are things that I need to get back to. They are items that I need to make sure I've handled and I've completed. And I do not consider my day done until I've whittled that number down to a manageable number. It's not always zero, but it is what I strive towards. I am very task-oriented and goal-oriented. We just did a whole session on goals, so I imagine many of us operate this way. And by knowing this is everything that I need to get done before I can call it a day, it helps me have something to work towards. And if you need to put a calendar block on your calendar with a purpose, perhaps use a calendar block. I have one every day from 3 to 5 p.m. And it is when I focus on making sure that I am getting everything done leading into the next day. Now, you can operate in your zone of genius. You can be the most organized person in the world, and you can optimize for repetition, but it is very hard to operate in full blast if you're not in a good place. So my very last tip to you all is allow yourself space to wind down so that you can bring the best version of yourself to work on a daily period, and so that you can focus. Take that time to go for a walk, do that workout class that you've been wanting to do. If it makes sense to you to step away from your desk to have lunch rather than eating it in front of your computer, that really helps me. But if I don't allow myself that space to relax, unwind, and take a moment for myself, I can't bring my best version to work. And I know that it is hard to step away when we have so much on our plates, but it's the best thing you can do, in my opinion, for your book of business, for your clients, and for your company, but also for yourself. So with that, I will wrap up with a big thank you to everyone. Thank you for joining this session. And also thank you for being part of my first speaking engagement. This was one of my 2022 career goals, and that's a panel that's actually coming up later today. So I appreciate you all joining, and I hope you have some takeaways that'll help you save some time in your day moving forward. Thank you.
Awesome, Nicole. Thank you so much for that. I know the team and I at Client Success, I know that we're always in awe of all of the work that you're doing, and oftentimes ask ourselves, how does she even do all of that? So I know that these are only I know these are only a handful of your tips and tricks, but you do seem to be able to do it all, which is so super impressive. That said, I think Dave and I have a couple questions for you. So I'm gonna actually kick it over to Dave to get us started.
No, I just had one statement. My kids think that my best friend is Snooze as well, but a different type of snooze. But no, so Nicole, did you just find these on your own? Did other peers give you these ideas? How did you come up with these productivity hacks?
I will say that a lot of what I have learned was a takeaway from my onboarding experience up front and rejiggling it in a way that made sense in other tools, and then taking what I maybe didn't find value in other at other roles or like other things that were pulling me in different directions, and examining why don't I like these things and figuring out a way to make them work.
Cool.
So yeah.
So a lot of trial and error and finding it. That's great.
Lots of trial and error.
Well, good.
Awesome. All right, Nicole. So I know that habits are important when we think about productivity and efficiency in our days. What's the one habit that you've developed that's helped you be most proficient?
It's being focused during my calendar blocks. I found that when I would block off my calendar at the beginning, it was really, really hard to just stay in the zone and focus on that one topic at hand. And a habit that I have been very, very diligent and mindful about building is if I say I'm going to work on my renewals, I work on my renewals. If I have my calendar blocked to do proactive outreach, that is how I'm spending my time. So it's like putting blinders on to focus on that one thing. And it's hard because you get pulled in a lot of directions, but it's the way that I'm able to really say, this is my intention and I'm going to move forward with it.
I love that. I feel so strongly about calendar blocks. Yeah. I sometimes don't respect my own blocks, but that said, I do have a question for you about that. How do you ensure no disruption during that time, right? What do you do to make sure that you're not listening to all of the things that we're trying to pull you into?
I close Slack.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dave. You want to share?
That's all right.
I close Slack.
Do it.
My parents are watching right now, and they have been purview to me putting a do not disturb sticker on my door so that nobody interrupts me. It is my focus time. And if I need to find ways to respect that, but also block out the noise, or not the noise, but the interruptions that could come my way during that time. So it's closing out things that do not contribute to getting that objective done.
That's awesome. I think one other thing that has helped me also is similar to what you do with shutting down Slack, right? Also quieting down your inbox, right? And so being able to shut that off periodically, whether you're closing it out entirely or using Snooze and some other functionality built into things like Gmail. But email can be equally noisy and distracting as well. So I love that you're doing that. Really super grateful for all the work that you're doing for us at Client Success. I know your customers are also in awe of how you are managing to do it all, but appreciate you joining us, Nicole, sharing your tips and your hacks, and congratulations on achieving your 2022 professional goal of speaking at an event, and we were thrilled to hear you, and you did a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Excellent job, Nicole.
Enjoy the rest of the panels, everyone. Bye.
Bye.